to the Seattle Sports Union. My name is Abraham Deweese. This is the best in local Seattle sports commentary. This is our special Seahawks show here on playoff weekend. That's right, wildcard weekend. The Seattle Seahawks yesterday defeated those Detroit Lions, the Motor City Kitties, as I call them. Guys, it was a great game. It was a game in which we saw our blue and green utterly demolish the visiting Detroit Lions. We saw a game where our Seattle Seahawks used the run game, and this was an effort that was amazing, an effort that we hadn't seen pretty much all year, an effort that we had not seen since 2015. All right, guys, we saw in that return of the run game one Thomas Rawls. That's right, the running back out of Central Michigan University. Went crazy. Had 27 runs for 167 yards rushing. What happened here? How did this happen? Was he angry at the Detroit Lions for not drafting him? Was he angry at his home state that he couldn't get into University of Michigan or stay in the University of Michigan? I don't know. Who cares? It worked. We saw him run hard. He has heart, dedication, and determination, and that's something that he has always been able to show. He just has not been able to show that he can stay healthy. Also, our offensive line hasn't been able to show that they can do much for him. Well, not today. We saw Thomas Rawls explode onto the scene. We saw him do that last year in his rookie season. We're seeing him do it again. And we saw a Detroit Lion defense that wasn't very good. They were terrible. We saw defensive end Ezekiel Anash, and we saw the defensive tackle Alatoy Nada do well. However, the rest of that defensive line, the rest of the linebackers, the defensive backs, the safeties for those Detroit Lions were terrible. They couldn't do anything. Now, it's not just a lack of ability on their part, because we know this is the NFL and they're good. We know that they're capable of at least making a team, one of the 32 in the National Football League. So maybe we ought to give a little credit to our offensive line. Or maybe we should give a little credit to Tom Cable or Darrell Bevell. God forbid I say we give some credit to Darrell Bevell. If I were to put it down to one of those three, whether it was the offensive line of the Seahawks, whether it was Darrell Bevell or Tom Cable, I actually am going to give credit for in the rare circumstances that I ever do this, to one Tom Cable. I have been critical of him, very, very forceful in my, vehement in my opposition to him. I have some great articles on our website, seattlesportsunion.com, where I've criticized his ability to lead this team, to lead this offensive line, to be the innovator, to be the man who can get the best out of a very young offensive line, but he did it this weekend. Great article from another blog mentioned that our offensive line, in particular Germain Ifedi, was not able to keep up with the pace. Germain Ifedi was not able to dominate the way he should as a first-round draft pick. And why? Because he has been tipping his plays. He's been tipping our plays. I feel like Tom Cable went in there, evaluated that whole offensive line, and told them, hey, here's what we've learned. Here's what we've seen. And it's a little bit of an embarrassment. You should not have to see that from a blog. You should not have to learn from a blog. But it'd be even more embarrassing if you didn't. And I think that's what he did. I think he went in there, fixed Germain Ifedi's problems, got them resolved, fixed the problems with George Fant, fixed all these problems that have been plaguing them. And I want to see more of that. And I think that's what we're going to see. A lot more of all of this. All right, guys. Let's take a look at someone else we should give credit to. Who else on this team would vie for that MVP? We got Tom Cable doing his darndest. We have that offensive line stepping up to the game, and Thomas Rawls, of course, with those 167 rushing yards. But it's Paul Richardson that we should take a look at as well. He came up big with amazing catches. Paul Richardson was on fire. He had 4 catches, but the 4 catches were important. A lot of people out there have been mentioning that Paul Richardson had pass interference on his first touchdown, that he pulled the face mask of the defending Lions player. And What happened during the game? Well, the officials missed it. Hey, you know what? The officials miss stuff every once in a while. You know what the defenders need to do is sally forth and continue to dominate and defend. And they didn't do it. That's not what the Lions did. They took one bad play that happened against them and they shriveled and they got run over. They should have never put themselves in that situation. Okay, it was one bad call by the official, but you have 59 minutes to make a difference, and that's not what the Lions did. And Paul Richardson has shown that he can take over and do what Tyler Lockett used to do. Not on kick returns, obviously. Tyler Lockett, remember, is an all-pro at the kick return in the kick return game, in the punt return game as well. But Paul Richardson showed he has game. He has jumps, he has hops, he has speed, and the hands to get the job done. There's another receiver who quietly dominated this game as well. The run game again, fantastic. Paul Richardson, fantastic. But it is he of the butt catch that I would like to speak of. One Doug Baldwin. You probably saw this play on SportsCenter over and over again. The pass came in, Doug Baldwin caught it up against his behind, wrapped both hands around, and made a catch that I had never seen in my entire life, and I doubt any of you had either. It was fantastic. It was amazing, and it was one of 11 catches for 104 yards. You know what, guys? He's still not getting noticed in this league. He has 94 catches. He has over 1,000 yards this year and another 7-8 touchdowns on the season. And what does he do? Just comes in and has developed into a number one receiver that this league, frankly, should be talking about, and he should be definitely a Pro Bowl player. We won't get the credit, but you know what? If he keeps getting Super Bowl rings, I doubt he cares one iota about getting any credit. All right, let's move on to the other side of the team, the other side of the ball, and that's the offense for the Detroit Lions. I want to talk about Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, he only went 18 of 34 for 202 yards, no touchdowns, and generally looked off. He looked terrible. And what did we see in this game from Stafford? We saw passes that were way off, out of, accuracy was freaky. Like when I say freaky, you look at him and the ball, it looks like it has zip and spin and it has the right motion, but it's not getting to the player. It's short, or it's high and to the left, or it's wide. And that's got to have something to do with the hand injury. And we saw it over and over throughout the game. The pass rush of the Seattle Seahawks came in, and that hand injury has affected his confidence in getting the ball there. His hand injury has affected his accuracy, most definitely. And you know what? As a Seattle Seahawks fan, I will take it, because our Seahawks defense, without Earl Thomas, we've been vulnerable to that deep pass. And Stafford just couldn't get it anywhere near his receivers on any deep passes whatsoever. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back and talk about more about the Seahawks win over the Detroit Lions here in the playoffs. Be right back. Welcome back to the Seattle Sports Union. We are SSU. We are the best in local Seattle sports commentary. My name is Abraham DeWeese. Behind the camera is one Bob Lucky. We have great articles about our local teams, all the favorites out there. We have articles on Seattle Sports Union for our Seattle Seahawks. That's what this show is about, those Seattle Seahawks. But we also write about the Huskies, Seattle University. We also write about baseball, the Mariners, the Everett Aqua Sox, the hockey teams such as the Everett Silvertips and, of course, those Seattle Sounders. Getting back to the NFL, our Seattle Seahawks yet again won in a dominating fashion that we had expected in the past but had not seen as much this year. They took out these Motor City Kitties, as I call them, those Detroit Lions, but there was something that disturbed me, something that I saw that, boy, oh boy, as we come into a game against the Atlanta Falcons next week, could be a problem. Hauschka, our kicker, missed another extra point. And that's 5 on the season. He's also missed some field goals that were incredibly easily makeable. This guy's costing us the season here, and it's kind of has me frustrated and worried. He's cost us at least 2 games. In those 2 games, we could have had a bye this week. Now, that would have been nice, and you can't undo the past. But what's going to happen next week if we end up in a close game? Remember, it was just week 5 or week 6 that we played at Atlanta and only won by 2 points. It was a couple weeks later that we only won by a field goal, and he made that. But he hasn't been able to give us a big margin of lead that we've needed, and that's concerning. And a lot of people talk about Clint Gresham last year being cut from the team, Clint Gresham being the long snapper, and maybe there's a certain confidence in having him as the long snapper because our long snapper this season has definitely launched a few over our punter's head. He's also he's passed quite a few that have been in the dirt that our placeholder kicker or our placeholder John Ryan has had to fumble around to get set up for Hauschka. But you know what? We can't put it on that long snapper anymore because he's gone. He's injured. We got to look at Hauschka. There's a new long snapper, and Hauschka's still missing kicks, and that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a huge problem, and I'm a little worried about that. All right, guys. I feel that might bite us in the backside, but we got to look at what we've done right. And one of the things that the Seahawks have done right is bring in a free agent by the name of Devin Hester. Devin Hester has the most touchdowns in NFL history as a kick returner. Devin Hester has been a barn burner for his 10 years in this NFL, and though his best years are behind him and he hasn't done much as of late, one has to think this is a great pickup. Tyler Lockett's injured. He's not coming back. We know that. And what did we see against the San Francisco 49ers in week 17? We saw Richard Sherman fair catching the ball the whole time. We saw Richard Sherman put out there to where something bad could happen. He could have got injured. He never returned the ball, and that's a smart thing because we need him for the long haul. But that ruins our threat of punt returns and kick returns. So bringing in Devin Hester, I realize it's a roll of the dice, but it's the right choice. It's a good pickup, and I commend Snyder and Pete Carroll for getting him in on this team. And he doesn't really have to learn the playbook. There's not much to learn. It's a matter of making good decisions, when to pick up the ball, when to fair catch, and when not to run. And we saw him do a good job in this game against the Detroit Lions. All right, guys, let's take a look here at the Lions. We did a great job in pretty much every phase of the game. Passing, running, defense, special teams, except for Hauschka's miss. But this was also a Lions team that, I don't know, maybe they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Yeah, I know that seems kind of harsh. It's not my team, and I'm kind of denigrating them right now. But think about this. They won 8 of their games. They set an NFL record, by the way, in winning 8 of their games when they had a deficit and had to come from behind to win it. Impressive. That shows grit and that shows determination, but it also shows they got lucky. They got lucky a lot. And when that luck ran out, when Stafford got his hand injured, this team has been in a downslide. And it's no small wonder that the Seahawks steamrolled them. I think pretty much any team in the playoffs would have steamrolled them. It was good that we got the opportunity to do it. It's a great feel-good story for our team, and it looks like we found our run game, and I'm excited about that. We also saw their star player, Golden Tate, who used to be a Seattle Seahawk, by the way. We saw their star player not do much. He had 3 catches, 25 yards. He was taken down of the game. You ask why? Well, it's just Richard Sherman, right? It's Richard Sherman that took him out. No, it was also a collected effort by Sherman, Lane, and Deshaun Shedd. So all 3 cornerbacks at different times played on him, but each one of them took him out. Each one of them covered him like a glove, and each one of them played to their best potential, and that's going to be required next week. And in fact, we're going to talk about those Atlanta Falcons in just a minute. We're going to run to break, and I'll be right back as we talk about Seattle Seahawks heading to Atlanta. Welcome back to Seattle Sports Union, Seattle SSU Live. My name is Abraham Deweese. Behind the camera is one Bob Lucky. We are the best in local Seattle sports commentary. We are doing our Seahawks episode for the game against the Detroit Lions. That's right, the Seahawks pummeled the Detroit Lions into the ground, but that was yesterday. We're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about the Seahawks heading to Atlanta and taking on those Atlanta Falcons. This was the site, the Georgia Dome, that is the site of where our Washington Huskies actually went down to play in the Peach Bowl and put up a good effort, but got defeated by those Alabama Crimson Tide. But the Seahawks are not playing the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons, and we need to take a look at who they are because we saw them weeks ago. We saw them in, I think it was week 6. Yeah, I think it was week 6. And we won 26-24. We won on a last-second play where Richard Sherman batted the ball out of the hands of Julio Jones on a deep pass that might have put Atlanta in a position to win. A lot of you out there, maybe those of you who don't like the Seahawks, maybe those of you who are staunch Atlanta fans, might say, hey, Richard Sherman pass interfered against Julio Jones. Well, get that out of your mind. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. I mean, that's a game. That's one game. That's a little game in the 16-game schedule, and that doesn't matter. Ultimately, your team had 60 minutes to win the game and couldn't do it. And you'll get a chance again at these Seattle Seahawks, and you'll get a chance without Earl Thomas on our team. You now have the chance for your Atlanta Falcons, who are the number 1 scoring offense in this league, and you'll get an opportunity to see them yet again, but this time on your home turf against our Seattle Seahawks. Well, yes, you guys scored 33 points per game, but the Seahawks only gave up 17 points per game. And the last time you faced the Seattle Seahawks in CenturyLink, you only scored 24. Actually, don't you forget, because I'll remind you, that the Seahawks were ahead 17-3 at halftime. Something weird happened. Something crazy happened. I'll credit Dan Quinn and your offensive minds on his coaching staff because you guys came back and scored 3 touchdowns in a row. What you did is you found a weakness in the Chris Richard's Seattle Seahawks defense, and you exploited that twice for long touchdowns. That was the game, if you remember, Richard Sherman got angry at the defensive coordinator, Chris Richard, and they showed it on television. They showed him yelling at him, and they got into a scuffle and whatnot. But Seahawks defense rebounded. They rallied, and so did our offense. Our offense also rallied, and we scored the go-ahead touchdown on a Kristen Michael 1-yard run, and then a field goal to win it. That was the field goal that Hauschka actually made for a change. That game was very close. That game was hard fought, and that's what we're going to see this next weekend, Saturday. Now, there are things that worry me. Devonta Freeman, the running back for those Atlanta Falcons, had over 1,000 yards. His backup had 500 yards. That's 1,500 yards, and they are the 5th-ranked running offense in the NFL. That's right. They are known for passing. but they'll run the ball and they'll steamroll you if possible. Now, the Seahawks are not a type of team to get steamrolled on the ground. Not right now. You're looking at guys like Atiyah Rubin, you're looking at Frank Clark, you're looking at Michael Bennett, who are all staunch, capable of stuffing the run. And the Seahawks actually had the 8th ranked run defense in the league, and that's not too shabby. We also have Jaron Reed out of the University of Alabama, who came in, second-round draft pick, and he's been staunch on that run defense as well. And you cannot talk about run defense without talking about Bobby Wagner. I'm sorry, all-pro Bobby Wagner. Second time in his career, he's been all-pro. He led the league. He led the NFL, not just the NFC, the NFL in total tackles. That's the first time he's done it, and that has earned him a position where he received more votes than any other defensive player for that all-pro team. 48 out of 50 votes he got. I don't think we'll be defeated in the run game. It's going to be that passing game. It's going to be the likes of Julio Jones, the wide receiver for those Atlanta Falcons. That's who that's what we have to concern ourselves with. We're going to have to look at a team that scored 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter against us in that game earlier this season. And figure out, how do we stop that? When they figure out a weakness in our defense, which they're capable of doing, how do we stop that? Well, what we had done is we had Richard Sherman facing him one-on-one, but the problem is guys like Lane and Shed weren't up to mustard and kept keeping up with where Sherman was. I think what we'll find is we'll see Sherman go back to his typical role on that left corner position rather than match up one-on-one. Now, the question is, will Sherman accept that? We'll see throughout the week. I think personally he should be the left cornerback in that standard cover 1 and just trust that the other side's going to get their job taken care of. But Richard Sherman's been lobbying to be a man-on-man receiver and cover the best receivers in the league. Will the coaching staff allow that? Don't know. I hope not. But we've seen it in the past, and they might happen again. If it happens again, I'm afraid we might get our defense carved up. I would rather play by our game and lose than try to play their game and get carved up like we did last time. If Sherman does play him, I'm sure Sherman will stop him. He stopped him relatively well in the previous game. It's just the other receivers on that team is pretty good. Matt Ryan, their quarterback. Matt Ryan is darn awesome. They call him Matty Ice. Matt Ryan, 117 QB rating. Sickening how good that is. This is a guy that probably should be the MVP of the NFL. A lot of you out there might say, well, what about Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott? Shut up. It's none of them. Matt Ryan had 117 QB rating. He had almost 5,000 yards passing. Almost 5,000 yards. Remember, their run game is really good. 5th best run game in the league. Their passing game, number 2 in the NFL. And like I said, this is the team that has scored 33 points per game. And they are the best scoring team in the league. Without Earl Thomas there on the Seahawks, this presents a huge problem. Earl Thomas's presence last time shut down all those deep passes. Not all of them, but most of them. Without him, we got problems. And the question is, can Steve Terrell do anything about it? I don't know. He's going to have to come up big. Also, Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator, is going to have to come up big, try a new scheme, try something interesting, get that pass rush going. The pass rush did really well against those Detroit Lions. They're going to have to do well against Matt Ryan, make him throw quickly, throw early, and play, like I said earlier, play up your standard defense of bump and run man-to-man in that cover one robber that they play. All right, predictions. What do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, you're not going to like my answer. I don't think the Seahawks have the victory in this game. In my Nostradamus manner, the best I can come up with is a horrific situation where we keep it close. All of us are on the edge of our seats, and you see something silly like a long bomb where Earl Thomas used to be defeats us. You'll see something silly like a Hauschka kick gets blocked yet again. And I just have this, again, precognition that this is going to go wrong on the last play of the game or the last series of the game. Seahawks will not get blown out. They're going to go in there and they're going to fight. And with a revived run game, they're going to do really well on the offensive side of the field. I could see a problem on the defensive side of the field, and I'll be happy. I would love it if they win. Oh, but I get the shivers. I get the quivers, and it makes me frustrated to say this, but I don't think they win. We could still call this a successful season just by getting as far as we have, but the injuries have mounted up, and the most important injury, Earl Thomas, and that free safety role is going to get exploited. All right, guys, that's what I think. That's what I'm afraid of. The Hawks still are number ones in all of our hearts, and it's been a great season, and there's still hope, and there's still an opportunity to prove me wrong. You never know. There's a reason why you play these games. You never know what's going to happen. But a little worried about it. I hope you're not worried about it. I hope all of you think that we do really well and send those positive vibes. But it's just one of those situations where I wouldn't lay the money on the Seahawks. Right now, the spread is about 7 points, and I don't think I'd put money on that. All right, guys, that's been our show. I am Abraham DeWeese. Behind the camera is Bob Lucky. We are the Seattle Sports Union. Check out our articles online at seattlesportsunion.com. Lots of great commentary on all the games for all of your local sports, the Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Mariners, those Sounders, the world champion Sounders, sorry. I know I say that with a wink, world champions, but yes, they're world champions. And those Washington Huskies. Guys, we're going to head out. We're going to see you next week, hopefully for a Seahawk win. Regardless, we're going to see you next week here on SSU Live. Have a good day, guys.